So, today we are going to discuss the teaching aptitude module, which is very important module in our NET syllabus. Before going to the module, let me introduce myself. My name is Sabita Vimaji. I handle teaching aptitude module. Okay. So, before going to the teaching aptitude topics, teaching aptitude content, let's have a look on the teaching aptitude syllabus. Okay. As you can see in the slide, there are 6 subtopics in the syllabus. There are 6 subtopics, which are teaching, learners' characteristics, factors affecting teaching, methods of teaching, teaching support system, and evaluation system. Okay. I will give you a brief description about this topic. Then you will get a brief idea about the total teaching aptitude syllabus. Okay. So let's start with the first topic, that is teaching. In this particular topic, we have to discuss, I will be discussing the introductory aspect of teaching. I will be discussing the introductory aspect of teaching, which constitute the concept of teaching, what are the objectives of teaching, what are the nature and characteristics of teaching, what are the difference between teaching and learning process, etc. Okay. Apart from these introductory aspects, we have to cover a factual topic, that is levels of teaching. There are 3 levels of teaching: memory level of teaching, and understanding level of teaching, and reflective level of teaching. These are the topics which is involved in these particular subtopics of teaching aptitude syllabus. Okay. Now, let's see the second subtopic, which is learners' characteristics. The characteristics of learners. What are the characteristics of learners? We have to study in this subtopic. Okay. We will be discussing the characteristics of adolescent adult learner. Here, we divided the learners into 2 subtopics, into 2 divisions, that is adolescent and adult learner. We will be discussing the characteristics of the adolescent learner and the characteristics of adult learner in 4 domains. In 4 domains, that are academic domain, social domain, emotional domain, and cognitive domain. Then we have to learn individual differences, which is very important in student population. Individual difference mean the uniqueness the student possesses. Okay, that is the second subtopic. Then when it comes to the third subtopics, which is factors affecting teaching. Factors affecting teaching. There are so many factors which can affect the teaching process. There are so many factors in the which is related to teacher, which can positively, both positively and negatively affect the teaching process. There are so many factors which is related to the side of learner, and there are also so many factors which is related to the environment where the teaching learning takes place. So in the third subdomain, we have to discuss the factors affecting teaching. Okay. Then the fourth subtopic is methods of teaching. Methods of teaching. There are a lot of methods in teaching. If you are someone who have already attended the previous year examinations, you may have familiarity with the terms like lecture method, discussion method, project method, programmed instruction method, project method, seminar method, etc. This all will be covered in this topic, okay? Then the next topic is here in this 4th subdomain is teacher-centered learning method, teaching method, and learner-centered teaching method. Then what are the difference between offline teaching method and online teaching method? This is the 4th subtopic of the this teaching aptitude syllabus. Then coming to the 5th subtopic, which is teaching support system. Teaching support system. Here, the total teaching learning system is divided into 2. Traditional teaching support system and modern and ICT-based support system. So here, we have to discuss what are the merits and demerits of this traditional support system and what are the merits and demerits of this modern and ICT-based support system. And we have to learn a lot of teaching methods, a lot of teaching methodology comes under traditional teaching support system. Okay, we have to learn some modern techniques like flip the classroom, and we have to discuss some ICT based teaching tools. Okay, then the last but not the least subtopic is evaluation system. What is evaluation? Evaluation is checking what we have learned, how much we learned, checking how much we learned. That is evaluation. If you are someone who have attended the previous year examinations, you may hear the term summative evaluation, formative evaluation, norm referenced evaluation, criterion referenced evaluation, etc. These all are the types of evaluation. These all types of evaluation will be discussing in this subdomain. Okay, then we have to learn choice-based credit system, that is CBCS, choice-based credit system in this subtopics of, in this subdomain of evaluation system. Okay, then we will be discussing innovations in evaluation system. What is computer-based evaluation? What is computer-assisted evaluation? What is meant by tailored testing? All these portions will be covering in this particular topic. Okay, so this is the brief introduction about the syllabus of teaching aptitude module. So then let's move to the content of teaching aptitude module. Okay, so let's move. So let's start with the first subtopic, that is introductory aspects of teaching aptitude, introductive aspect of teaching. In this subdomain, we are going to discuss the concept of teaching, what are the objectives of teaching, what are the nature and characteristics of teaching, and what are the different levels of teaching. Okay, I hope you all understood. And let's go into the concept of teaching. Okay, are you ready? Okay, now let's start with the concept of teaching. What is meant by teaching? What is meant by teaching? In your concept, in your viewpoint, what is meant by teaching? Please let me know in the chat box. Please let me know your viewpoint in the chat box. What is meant by teaching? Can you respond? Okay. If I ask a question like, what is meant by teaching? You may have different viewpoints. You may have different definitions. Okay. You may have different definitions. Some of you might say teaching is giving information. Teaching is giving knowledge. Some of you might say teaching is building up better citizens in our society. Some of you might say teaching is about giving moral values to the students, moral things to students. All of you may have different definition, different opinion. First of all, you must know that all these definitions are correct. All these definitions included in teaching. Okay. But you must know that all these definitions come up with a single point. That is, teaching is a place, teaching is a process where the main focus is on learning. Teaching is a process where the main focus is on learning. The special function of teaching is to impart understanding and skill. Okay. The main function, the major function of teaching is to make learning effective. Okay. Main effective, note down, this is an important point. The main function of teaching is to make learning effective. Okay. Then you have to consider an important point is that teaching is always focused on creating some kind of learning. We know that teaching is always focusing on creating some kind of learning. But learning is not always resulting from teaching. Learning is not always resulting from teaching. We know that teaching is always focusing on some kind of learning upon students. But we can't say that learning is always result from teaching only. We can't say that learning is always resulting from teaching only. Learning will be coming from previous experiences, learning focused on learning results from our observation, learning results from our self-studies, learning results from our reading, learning results from imitation. Learning can resulting from anything else. Okay, so we can't say learning is always resulting from teaching. Learning is not always resulting from teaching. Teaching is always focusing on creating some kind of learning, but learning is not always resulting from teaching. Learning results from previous knowledge, observation, imitation, self-study, etc. Not always from teaching. Okay, we have to understand this point. Clear? Is it okay? I hope you all are understood. So let's move to the another introductory aspect of teaching, which is meaning of teaching. Okay, which is meaning of teaching. In this particular introductory topic, we have to discuss the definitions of teaching. Definitions of teaching. Okay, there are several definitions for teaching. Here I have taken 2-3 definitions, which is given by John Dewey, Morrison, and Jackson. Okay, now let's start with the definition of given by John Dewey. Okay, John Dewey defines teaching as something which does not require a teacher. Okay, according to John Dewey, there is no teacher, there is no role for a teacher. Okay, learning is something which is self-initiated by a learner. There is no role for a teacher in learning. Learning is something which is self-initiated by a learner. Okay, learner is the only person. Learner is the only person who can create, who can generate knowledge, who can construct knowledge, who can focus on learning. There is no role for a teacher in learning, according to John Dewey. John Dewey de-emphasized the role of a teacher in a teaching learning process. Okay, understand? According to John Dewey, teaching is a process where there is no teaching, there is no role for a teacher. Learning is something which is self-initiated by a learner. If someone wants to learn something, if someone wants to construct some knowledge, he or she will take his or her own initiation for that. Okay, learning is something which is self-initiated by learning. There is no teacher, there is no role for a teacher in the learning purpose. He de-emphasized the role of a teacher in the teaching learning process. This is the definition given by John Dewey. I hope you all understood the definition given by John Dewey. Now let's consider the definition given by H.C. Morrison. Okay. According to H.C. Morrison, teaching is a process in which intimate contact between more matured personality and a less matured one take place. Okay, according to Morrison, teaching is intimate contact. Teaching is an intimate relationship. Teaching is a close relationship between a more matured individual and a less matured individual. Okay, Morrison defines teaching with respect to the term maturity. He defined teaching in terms of maturity. Okay, he defines teaching as an intimate contact between a more matured personality and a less matured personality. Here in the teaching learning process, he considers the more matured personality as teacher and the less matured personality will be student. So, the relationship between a teacher-student or the relationship between a more matured personality and a less matured personality will happen in teaching process. That is the definition given by H.C. Morrison. Once again, according to H.C. Morrison, teaching is an intimate contact. Teaching is a close relationship. Teaching is an intimate relationship between the more matured personality and the less matured personality. Here, Morrison referred the more matured personality as teacher and the less matured personality as student. So, a teacher-student relationship, a close contact, an intimate contact between a teacher and student happens in teaching, according to him. But we can say this is not a perfect definition for teaching, because we know that the characteristics maturity is not a defining criteria for teaching, for describing teaching. Okay, so we can't consider it as a perfect definition for teaching. Okay, so this is the definition of Morrison. Then coming to the Jackson's definition, Jackson defined teaching as a face-to-face encounters between two or more persons, one of whom as a teacher who intends to create certain changes, certain modifications in another participants, that are students, who are students. Okay. According to Jackson, teaching is a face-to-face interaction. Teaching is a face-to-face contact. Teaching is a face-to-face encounters between two or more person or two or more groups. One of whom as a teacher who intends to make certain changes in their behavior, certain modifications in behavior in other participants or in other groups who are students. This is the definition given by Jackson. He said that he defined teaching as something which can affect certain changes in the student population, certain changes in the behavior of the student population, certain modifications in the behavior of the student population. This is the widely accepted definition of teaching. Jackson's definition is widely accepted, the most accepted definition of teaching. Okay, currently in our curriculum, in our education system, the widely accepted definition is the Jackson's definition. Okay. According to Jackson, teaching is a face-to-face encounters between two or more persons, one of whom as a teacher who intends to create certain changes or certain modification in other person who are students. I hope you are clear. So these are the definition given by Dewey, Morrison, and Jackson. I hope you understood the definitions of teaching. Then let's move to the another introductory aspects of teaching, which is objective of teaching. Objective of teaching means aims of teaching. There are lots of objectives of teaching. There are several objectives of teaching. We can't say that there are definite number of objectives for teaching. I have listed down the most important, most frequently asked objectives of teaching, but these are not the only objectives of teaching. There are several objectives of teaching. These are the umbrella terms for objectives of teaching. Okay. So when it comes to the objectives of teaching, the first objectives of teaching is acquisition of knowledge. Teaching aimed at acquisition of knowledge. The main goal or the main purpose of teaching is acquisition of knowledge. What is meant by acquisition of knowledge? Receiving knowledge or grasping knowledge. That is meant by acquisition of knowledge. The teacher will give some information to student. The student will grasp the information. The student will use the information. The receiving information or grasping the information. That is what acquisition of knowledge means. So the first objective, the main goal of the objective of teaching is acquisition of knowledge. Okay. Then coming to the second objective, it is the development of understanding. Development of understanding. Okay. Teaching is not merely giving information to student. Rather than giving information to student, teaching focusing on making sure the student understand the concept. The student understand those information. Okay. The student must get a clear understanding about the topic. The student must get a clear meaning about the topic. That is what development of understanding means. So rather than giving information, the teacher makes sure that the student gets the information, the student understand the information. So that is what development of understanding means. Okay, clear? Then the next objective of teaching is development of conceptual, intellectual, and subject-specific skill. Teaching is aimed at development of conceptual, intellectual, and subject-specific skill. Teaching is a broad concept. Teaching is a broad concept. We can't say teaching is only focused on textbook content. Teaching is not only focused on textbook content. It is focused on, but also it is focused on the conceptual, intellectual, and subject-specific skills. Because teaching is a broad concept. So teaching must be focused on conceptual, which is subject specific, extra subject specific, intellectual, and subject-oriented skill. It is not based on the textbook skills only. Okay, so the goal of teaching can't be confined only into the textbook skills or intellectual skill. It is a broad concept. We have to understand that. Okay. So the fourth objective of teaching is development of value. Development of value. Teaching is aimed at developing values. What is meant by developing values? We know that what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is right, what is wrong. These values are, these all kinds of values are, these all kinds of good values are passed to students through teaching. So these are the objectives of teaching: acquisition of knowledge, development of understanding, development of conceptual, intellectual, and subject-specific skills, and development of values. Okay, I hope you all understood the concept. You all understood the objectives of teaching. Then we are going to another introductive aspect: nature and characteristics of teaching. Nature and characteristics of teaching, which is a summing portion of the previous topics we have discussed. Okay, this is the summing portion of the concept of teaching, definition of teaching, and the objectives of teaching. So what are the nature and characteristics of teaching? Let's see. Okay. The very first nature is teaching is a complete social process. We can say teaching is a complete social process. Teaching really connected to the society. Teaching really associated with the society. In a cultural viewpoint or in a societal viewpoint, our teaching or a teacher is someone who can build up a better citizen in our society, who can build up better citizens in our society. After the parents, after the primary caregivers, teachers are the second social agent who can aim at developing personalities, who can aim at shaping characteristics of persons, etc. So we can say that teaching is a complete social process. Teaching is really connected to our society. Teachers build up better citizens in our society. Okay, teachers are the secondary social agent who can shape our personalities, who can shape our characteristics, who can shape our life. So it is important to know that the point teaching is a complete social process. Okay. The next point of the next characteristics of teaching is giving information. For what? For knowledge construction, for the purpose of learning. For the purpose of learning, for knowledge construction, teaching is about giving information. Okay. Then the third characteristics is teaching is an interactive process. Teaching is an interactive process. There is no doubt in it. Teaching must be an interactive process. In the conventional educational system or in a traditional educational system, teaching were not an interactive process. The conventional education system were a teacher-centered one. There is no interaction between teacher and student. There is no frequent dialogues between teacher and student. There is no frequent communication between teacher and student. Students were a passive listeners. Students were passive learners. But when it comes to the modern era, when it comes to the modern education system, here teaching must be an interactive process. Teaching is an interactive process. Teaching must be an interaction. There must be an interaction between teacher and students. It is essential for the guidance, progress, and development of the students. Only if a teaching is interactive process, and effective teaching will occur there. Okay, so teaching must be an interactive process. Then moving to the fourth characteristics, which is teaching is a process of development and learning. Teaching is a process of development and learning. Teaching is aimed at developing overall domain of a person. Overall domain of a person. Teaching is not only focusing on the intellectual domain, not only focusing on the cognitive domain, not only focusing on the educational domain of the teacher. of the learner. Teaching is focusing on overall domain of a learner, which is the emotional domain, social domain, moral domain, academic domain, educational domain, cognitive domain. Teaching is focusing upon the overall domain of a learner. Okay. Then teaching causes change in behavior. Just like Jackson defined teaching, teaching causes a change in behavior. Teaching causes a modification in behavior of a person. Okay. Then the last but not the least characteristic is teaching is a skilled occupation. Teaching is a profession which requires high potential and high skill. It is a high skilled occupation. It is not a simple thing. It is not a silly thing. Every successful teacher is expected to know the general methods of teaching learning situation. A teaching needs to be passionate. A teacher have to be responsible in his or her job. A teacher must have to be qualified. A teacher must have subject knowledge. A teacher must have empathy, empathetic. So teaching is a skilled occupation. It's not a simple job. So these are the characteristics and nature of teaching. Okay, clear? So these are the introductory aspects of teaching. I hope you all understood the introductory aspects. If you have any doubt, let me know in the chat box. Okay, clear? Do you have any doubt? Okay. Then let's practice some questions. Okay, let's practice some previous year question. Let me read the question. Effective teaching is a function of. The first question is, effective teaching is a function of. The options are teacher satisfaction, teachers' honesty and commitment, teachers making students learn and understand, teachers liking for professional excellence. What is the function of effective teaching? Please let me know your answers in the chat box. Okay, option C. Any other answers? Okay, the correct answer is option C. The correct answer is teachers making students learn and understand. Okay, when we're looking for a correct answer, we may have we may have confusions. The teacher's satisfaction is a function of effective teaching. Teachers' honesty and commitment is also a function of effective teaching, and teachers' liking for professional excellence is also a function of effective teaching. But the ultimate function of effective teaching is teachers making students learn and understand. Okay. So moving to the next question. The most appropriate meaning of learning is. What is the most appropriate meaning of learning? Option A is acquisition of skills. Option B is modification of behavior. Option C is personal adjustment. And option D is inculcation of knowledge. I expect your answers in the chat box. The most appropriate meaning of learning is. The correct answer is modification of behavior. Okay. Do you remember Jackson's definition? What is Jackson's definition? Teaching is a face-to-face encounters between two persons. One person intended to create some changes, some modification among the other person. That was the definition. So the most appropriate meaning of learning is modification of behavior. Okay. Learning is also acquisition of skills. Learning is personal adjustment. Learning is inculcation of knowledge. But the most appropriate meaning of learning is modification of behavior. Right? Clear? Okay. I hope you understood. So let's move to the third question, which is an assertion reason question. Let me explain what is assertion reason question. Assertion reason question, there must be two statements. One statement is assertion and the other statement is reason. We have to check out that whether the two statements are correct or not. And we must have to check whether the statement in the reason correctly explains the statement in the assertion. Okay, that is the assertion reason question. So read carefully and let me know the answers. Let me know your answers in the chat box. Okay. Okay, let me read the question. Assertion: all teaching should aim at ensuring learning. Reason: all learning results from teaching. We have discussed that, right? The correct answer is option 3, option C. Okay. We know that all teaching should aim at ensuring some kind of learning. Every teaching must focus on ensuring some kind of learning, but we can't say that all learning results from teaching. We can't say that. All learning results from many things. There are many sources for learning. We learn through observation, we learn through previous knowledge, we learn through self-learning, we learn through reading books, we learn through imitation, we learn through every aspects. We can't say all learning results from teaching. Okay, clear? Okay. So let's move to the next question. These all are the previous year question. Okay. This is the fourth question. Which of the following set of statements best represents the nature and objectives of teaching and learning? These are the statements. Read carefully and choose the correct answers. Which of the following set of statements best represents the nature and objective of teaching and learning? Read carefully and let me know your answers. Okay, your answers are coming. Option 1, option D. Any other answers? Any other suggestions? Any other options? Okay, let's see. The correct answer is option 1. Option 1 is the correct answer. Okay. Let's discuss the statements. Okay. Teaching is like selling and learning is like buying. We can't say that. Teaching is like selling and learning is like buying. We can't say that. Because the relationship between a student and a teacher is not like a relationship between the seller and customer. Okay. Both relationships are different. The relationship between a student and teacher is very different from the relationship between a seller and a customer. So we can't say teaching is like selling and learning is like buying. Okay. Next sentence, next statement. Teaching is a social act. We have discussed that, while learning is a personal act. Okay, we can say like that. Learning is a personal act. We all learn, we all make learning very personally. Okay. So we can say teaching is a social act while learning is a personal act. This is the correct nature and objective. Then teaching implies learning. Teaching implies learning, whereas learning does not imply teaching. We have discussed that. Teaching always focuses on learning, but we can't say learning implies teaching. Learning always implies teaching. We can't say that. Learning does not imply teaching always. So this is also the correct statement. Teaching is a kind of delivery of knowledge, while learning is like receiving it. Teaching is a kind of delivery of knowledge. There is no doubt in it. There is no debate in it. Learning is like receiving it. Learning is not just like receiving it. Learning is understanding the concept. Learning is about understanding the concept. Learning is grasping the concept. It is more than just receiving it. It is more than just receiving that concept. It is more like understanding that concept. It is more like grasping that concept. Okay. So that is also not a correct answer. Then teaching is an interaction and is triadic in nature, whereas learning is an active engagement in a subject domain. Learning is an active engagement in a subject domain. We can say that is correct. Is learning triadic in nature? Is learning triadic in nature? Or is teaching triadic in nature? Yes, teaching is triadic in nature. Triadic means three. There are three factors which indicates teaching. There are three factors which contributes to teaching process. In teaching process, there occurs interaction between three factors. That the three factors are teacher, learner, and the environment where the teaching learning takes place. So there are three factors which can contribute to the teaching learning process. There are three elements. So the teaching is an interaction and teaching is triadic in nature. So the correct answers are, correct statements are option B, C and E. So the correct answer is option 1. Clear? I hope you all understood the question 4 and its answers. I hope you all understood. Okay. So now let's move to the another topic of teaching aptitude. Another important topic, that is levels of teaching. Levels of teaching. As you can see in the slide, there are different levels of teaching. Memory level of teaching, understanding level of teaching, and reflective level of teaching. First of all, you must know why do we have to categorize the levels into the teaching levels into different levels. Why do we have to categorize these teaching levels into different levels? We have to understand that. Okay, we can't see same level of teaching in all our educational levels. We can't see same level of teaching in all our educational levels, right? The teaching, the way the teacher taught us during our first standard is entirely different from the way of teaching we received in our PG standard, in our UG standard. The old teaching we get in our educational level is completely different. So that's why we have to categorize teaching level in different levels of teaching. Okay. So we can picturize the levels of teaching as a pyramid. Okay. Memory level of teaching, understanding level of teaching, and reflective level of teaching. As you can see in the pyramid, the basic level of teaching is memory level of teaching. And the intermediate level, the next level, the intermediate level of teaching is understanding level of teaching. And the top level, the topmost level or the highest level of teaching is reflective level of teaching. Okay. Memory level of teaching is otherwise known as thoughtless level of teaching. Thoughtless level of teaching. Because this level of teaching does not require thinking, any thinking. No, this level of teaching require no thinking from the side of the student. Okay, the student need not think much in this level of teaching. This level is only focused on the memory capacity of the student. When it comes to the understanding level, it is called thoughtful level of teaching. Thoughtful level of teaching. This level require some thinking capacity up to a level from the side of the student. So this level of teaching is otherwise known as thoughtful level of teaching. Then comes to the reflective level of teaching. It is considered as the most thoughtful level of teaching. It is considered as the most thoughtful level of teaching because this level requires maximum thinking capacity from the individual, from the students. This level requires the students needs to be very thoughtful. Okay, in this level, the student does require a maximum cognitive potential, maximum thinking capacity, like their problem solving, creative thinking, judgment capacities, logical thinking, etc. So these are the basic elements of levels of teaching. There are three levels of teaching: memory level, understanding level, and reflective level of teaching. Okay. So let's discuss all these three levels in detail. First, we are going to discuss memory level of teaching. Memory level of teaching is otherwise known as MLT. It is otherwise called MLT. Herbart is the main proponent of memory level of teaching. Don't forget the name, Herbart. Okay, memory level of teaching is proposed by Herbart. Okay, memory level of teaching just focuses on our memory capacity, our memory level, our memory capacity of the memory capacity, our memory capacity of the student, not on other thinking capacities. Memory level of teaching does not focuses on the thinking capacities because it is called, that's why it is called the thoughtless level of teaching. It does not require thinking capacities like problem solving, like decision making, like logical thinking, etc. It is only focused on our memory capacity. Okay. Memory is the initial stage of teaching. Memory is the memory level of teaching is the initial stage of teaching. It is the basic level of teaching. It is the primary level of teaching. Memory level of teaching is applicable for the primary educational level students. Primary educational level students such as we can use memory level of teaching in our LKG, UKG, first standard, second standard, third standard, and fourth standard. Because this level requires no thinking from the side of the student. Okay. The teaching learning process is basically stimulus response in MLT. In memory level of teaching, the teaching learning process is basically known as stimulus response stimulus response learning. We learn things in this level of teaching through association, through some connection. Okay, let's take some example. How did you learn alphabets? How did you learn ABCD? How did you learn ABCD? Did you learn it by understanding the concept? Did you learn it by understanding the concept of A? What is the concept of B? What can be pronounced? No. We all are learned it through repetition, right? Like a rhythm, like a music. I have learned ABCD like a music, like a rhythm. Okay. So here in memory level of teaching, we learn things through association. We learn things through repetition. We learn things through connection. That is the stimulus response connection means. If there is a stimulus, we will make a response connecting to that. We will make a response associating to that. Okay. So through stimulus response connection, teaching learning process occurs in memory level of teaching. Clear? Then coming to the evaluation system. The evaluation system in the memory level of teaching is very easy one. The evaluation system is not complicated one like an essay questions, like an essay type examination. Okay, evaluation system here includes oral examination and small type of written examination. Okay, evaluation will be very simple in this memory level of teaching. Okay. Then we have to understand that, we have to note that when you hear the terms retention, recalling, remember, rapidity in learning, memorize, remember, memorizing, you have to connect these terms with the memory level of teaching. Retention, recalling, rapidity in learning, remember, memorizing. You have to connect these all words to memory level of teaching. Okay, clear? That's all about memory level of teaching. Memory level of teaching is proposed by Herbart. Here, the main focus is on memory capacity of the student, not on thinking capacities like problem solving and decision making. It is the initial stage of the teaching. As you can see in the pyramid, as you can remember in the pyramid, it is the basic stage of teaching. It is the initial stage of teaching. It is applicable for the primary educational level students like LKG, UKG, first standard, second standard, third standard, and fourth standard student. Here, the teaching learning system is based on the stimulus response system. That is, here We memorize things based on the connection, based on the association between the stimulus and response. If there is a stimulus, we will make a response connecting to that. That is what is happening in memory level of teaching. The evaluation system mainly include small type of oral type examination, written type examination, etc. Then one thing we have to be consider that when we hear the terms retention, recalling, rapidity in learning, memory, remembrance, we have to associate these terms with the memory level of teaching. That's all about memory level of teaching or MLT. Clear? Then we are going to the understanding level of teaching. We are going to the level understanding level. Okay. Understanding level of teaching is otherwise known as ULT. ULT. Okay. Morrison is the main proponent of understanding level of teaching. Not the name, Morrison. Understanding level of teaching is proposed by Morrison. It is much more advanced than MLT. Okay. That is, some progress is happening when someone switched from MLT to ULT, when someone switched from memory level of teaching to understanding level of teaching. Some progress is happening. Okay. It is much more advanced than MLT. It is obviously in the terms of thinking capacity. We have studied that, we have learned that understanding level of teaching is considered as the thoughtful level of teaching. In this level of teaching requires some kinds of thinking process from the side of student. Here, the student is able to understand things. Here, the student is able to interpret things. Here, the student is able to grasp things. Here, the student is able to process things. Okay. It is otherwise called memory plus insight stage. Understanding level of teaching is otherwise known as memory plus insight. Okay, memory is there. With that, insight is also there. Insight means awareness about what we are learning. What I am studying. What is that information? This all information, this all awareness about what we are learning is constitute insight. Okay. So in the level of understanding, in understanding level of teaching, memory plus insight is there. Okay. Understanding level of teaching goes beyond just memorizing the fact. It is, the student is able to understand things here. Okay. In understanding level of teaching, it provides more opportunity for the students develop the intellectual behavior. Okay. Not fully, but up to a limit, they can develop their intellectual behavior. Okay. We can give the understanding level of teaching primary. Okay. It focus on understanding. Evaluation system will be a moderate one. Evaluation system will include both essay and objective type questions. That is what understanding level of teaching is. So the understanding level is otherwise known as ULT. Morrison is the main proponent of understanding level of teaching. It is much more advanced than MLT. When it comes to understanding level of teaching, some progresses happen in this, in this stage, in this level of teaching, student is able to understand things. This level is always known as memory plus insight stage. Insight means awareness about what we are studying, what is that information, what I am studying. Understanding level of teaching is just beyond the memorizing facts. Okay. It provides more opportunity for the students to develop the intellectual behavior. Not fully, but to a limit, students can develop intellectual behavior. The evaluation system includes both essay and objective type. Now, let's see. Morrison has divided understanding level of teaching into 5 steps. These are the 5 steps. These are the 5 steps through which is teaching. So let's see. The first step is exploration. Next step is presentation, then assimilation, or piece last recitation. So let's come to exploration. What is exploration? Exploration means exploration is the teacher will be testing previous knowledge. In exploration stage, the teacher will be testing previous knowledge. The teacher will be analyzing the content. Okay, before presenting the content, the teacher will be testing the previous knowledge. Let's consider an example. If the teacher is going to take, if a teacher is going to present a topic which is thermodynamics, here in exploration stage, before the teacher present the topic thermodynamics, the teacher will be testing previous knowledge about this particular topic. The teacher will ask, do you know anything about thermodynamics, or have you ever heard the name Isaac Newton? So like this, the teacher will be testing previous knowledge about a particular topic before presenting that particular topic. Then coming to the presentation stage, coming to the second stage in ULT level, which is presentation. After exploring the previous knowledge of student, after testing the previous knowledge of student, the teacher will be presenting the content. The teacher will be presenting the content. Here, the teacher will be presenting the content thermodynamics. Okay, that is the stage presentation. Then, the third stage is assimilation. Assimilation is the stage. Here, the teacher will be giving an activity based on the topic. Here, in the terms of thermodynamics, here the teacher will be giving an activity based on the thermodynamics, which will be a project work, an assignment work, or go and watch a video, collecting some paper cuttings, just like that, anything like that. Teacher will be giving an activity which is based on that particular topic. Here, student will get an opportunity to understand things in their own way. Here, student will be giving meaning to some topics. Here, student got an opportunity. Student will get an opportunity to learn in their own way. Okay, that is the stage assimilation. Then the stage organization. When it comes to organization, here students are provided with occasion for representation. Here students are provided with occasion for submission of information, for submitting information that they have collected. Okay. In the assimilation stage, the students are collected a lot of data. The students are collected a lot of information. In this organization stage, the students are provided with the occasion for representing these collected data as a project report, as a seminar report, as an assignment, etc. Okay, that is the organization stage. Organization stage is the occasion for submission of the data that have collected. Okay. Then the last but not the least stage is recitation stage, recitation. Okay. Here the student presents the content orally. Here the student presents the data they have collected orally in front of the other student. That is the step recitation. So these are the 5 steps through which the understanding level of teaching occurs. The first step is exploration. Second step is presentation. Then the third one is assimilation. Fourth one is organization. And the fifth last step is recitation. In exploration stage, the teacher will be testing the previous knowledge of student. In the presentation stage, the content is presented by the teacher. In assimilation stage, the teacher will be giving an activity based on the content. In organization stage, the students are provided with the occasion for representation, the occasion for submission of the content they have collected. Then the last one, recitation stage, in which students presents the content orally in front of the student. These are the stages occurred in the understanding level of teaching. So that's all about the understanding level of teaching. Understanding level of teaching is otherwise known as ULT. It is proposed by Morrison It is more advanced level of teaching than MLT. Okay. Here, some progresses happens when when someone shifts from MLT to understanding level or ULT. Here, student is able to understand things. This stage is also known as memory plus insight stage. Insight means awareness about what we are going to learn, what is that in this information. Okay. In this level of teaching, the students got an opportunity to develop their intellectual behavior up to an extent, up to a limit, not fully. The evaluation system mainly include both essay and objective type questions. And these are the 5 stages of understanding level of teaching. That's about understanding level of teaching. Okay. Then the last level of teaching is reflective level of teaching. The topmost level, the highest level of teaching is reflective level of teaching, which is otherwise known as RLT. RLT. Who is the proponent? Hunt is the main proponent of reflective level of teaching. Don't forget the name Hunt. Okay. A reflective level of teaching is proposed by Hunt. It is the top level of teaching. As you can remember the hierarchy, as you can remember the pyramid, reflective level of teaching is the top level of teaching. It is the highest level of teaching. It is considered as the most thoughtful level of teaching because this level of teaching requires maximum cognitive potential, maximum thinking capacity, maximum thought process from the side of the student. Okay. It includes both ULT and MLT plus maximum cognitive potential from the side of the student. It includes ULT, MLT plus maximum cognitive potential from the student. Because during this stage, our brain has fully developed. So the student has a high cognitive potential. That's why reflective level of teaching is used in our UG level, in our PG level, MPhil level, PhD level, etc. During this stage, during this reflective level of teaching, during the higher educational level, our brain has fully developed. So the student is able to use their maximum cognitive potential. That's why reflective level of teaching is used in our UG level, our PG level, our MPhil and PhD level. Here, teacher will be there as a guide, not as a teacher. Okay, students will be taking their individual efforts to learn something. Here, teachers won't be a full-time teachers. Teachers won't be there with textbook mentioning every concepts included in the syllabus. Teachers won't be there in every periods. Teachers will be there as a guide or as a mentor, not as a teacher, not as a full-time teacher. Teachers act as guides or mentors here. Teachers act as guides or mentors. Okay, they are guiding us. They will guiding us. They were mentoring us. But the point is that the students will be taking their individual efforts to learn something. The students will go to library. The student will take a book and they will make notes. And they use self-study for the examination purpose. So here the main focus is on learner. It is a learner-centered level of teaching method. Okay, it is a learner-centered level of teaching method. The student has complete freedom. The student has complete freedom about how to learn, what to learn, how much learn. There is less role for teachers. Here, students occupies the primary place and the teacher assumes the secondary place. Here, the students occupies the primary place in the learning process. It is a learner-centered level of teaching. So, the classroom environment will be sufficiently open and independent. The student will have complete freedom. Okay. Here, the evaluation system is something like complicated one. Mostly essay type test is used for evaluation. In evaluation purpose, for evaluation purpose, the student attitudes and beliefs are assessed about a particular domain, about a particular topic. The evaluation system must be a complicated one, like essay type questions. Okay. Then one important point is there, when you hear the complicated higher order mental processes like reasoning, logical thinking, imagination, problem solving, decision making, you have to connect these all terms with the reflective level of teaching. Okay, understood? I hope you understood the reflective level of teaching. Once again, reflective level of teaching is otherwise known as RLT. Hunt is the main proponent. It is the top level of teaching. It is the most thoughtful level of teaching. That means this level, reflective level of teaching, requires maximum participation, maximum cognitive processes from the side of the student, from the side of the learners. It includes ULT and MLT, both understanding level of teaching and memory level of teaching. With that, students' maximum cognitive potential will also be there. During this stage, our brain has fully developed. So student has the high cognitive potential. That's why RLT is used in our higher level educational system. Here, the teacher won't be there as a full-time teacher. The teacher will be acts as guides or mentors. Here, the classroom environment will be open and independent. It is a learner-centered level of teaching. So the students will have complete freedom. Here, the main focus is on learners, on the student. Here, the students occupy the primary place and the teacher assumes the secondary place. The evaluation system must be more like a complicated one. Mostly essay type test is used for evaluation. If you hear the terms reasoning, logical thinking, imagination, problem solving, decision making, you have to connect these terms with the reflective level of teaching. So that is what the reflective level of teaching is. So let's sum up the topic. Let's revise the topic. There are 3 different levels of teaching: memory level of teaching, understanding level of teaching, and reflective level of teaching. Memory level of teaching is proposed by Herbert. Understanding level of teaching is proposed by Morrison, and reflective level of teaching is proposed by Hunt. Memory level of teaching is focusing on memory or remembering facts or information. Understanding level of teaching is focused on memory plus insight. Insight means awareness about what we are learning. Okay, mastery of the subjects. Then in reflective level of teaching, memory level of teaching, your understanding level of teaching plus the maximum cognitive potential from the student side is also included. Okay. We have said that MLT is based on the stimulus response connection. We learn in memory level of teaching by associating things, by repeating things, by connecting things. It is a teacher-centered level of teaching because the main focus is on teacher in memory level of teaching. When it comes to the RLT, when it comes to the reflective level of teaching, it is more like a student-centered, student-centered. When it comes to ULT, it is not teacher-centered and student-centered. It is a topic-centered level of teaching. It is a content-focused level of teaching, we can say. Okay. When you hear the term retention, recalling, rapidity in learning, we have to connect these terms with MLT. Okay. When it comes to RLT, when you hear the terms reasoning, logic, imagination, creativity, decision making, critical thinking, you have to connect these terms with the RLT. Okay. So that's about the levels of teaching. I hope you all understood the levels of teaching, about the concept levels of teaching. Now let's practice some questions. The first question is a statement question. There are 2 statements. We have to check whether these 2 statements are correct or not. Statement 1 is, teaching at the understanding level involves encouraging students to think critically and reflect on their learning experiences. Statement 2. Teaching at memory level involves rote memorization and does not encourage critical thinking. What will be the correct answer? Let me know your answers in the chat box. The answers are coming. Option A, option D. What will be the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is option D. Let's see, let's discuss. Teaching at the understanding level involves encouraging students to think critically. It is not the understanding level, it is the reflective level that involves encouraging students to think critically. We have said that, I have said that when you hear the term critical thinking, reasoning, you should connect these terms with the reflective level of teaching. Okay. Not understanding level of teaching. Critical thinking occurs during the reflective level of teaching. Okay. So the correct statement 1 is false. But statement 2 is true. Teaching at the memory level involves rote memorization. I said that memory level always focuses on memory, always focusing on remembering facts and information. Okay, it does not encourage critical thinking. So the correct answer is option D. Now moving to the next question. Which of the following is not merit of reflective thinking? Not merit of reflective thinking. You have to point out the feature which is not merit of reflective thinking. Okay, answers are coming. Option C, option C, option C. So let's check. The correct answer is option C. It's a very simple question, right? So let's check. It's learner-centered. We know the reflective level of teaching is learner-centered. So it is a merit of reflective level of teaching. It's not a, it is not a not merit. Okay. Then it's appropriate for higher class. We know that reflective level of teaching is appropriate for higher class. Okay. Deep level of learning. In reflective level of teaching, the student requires, reflective level of teaching requires higher level of thinking or maximum cognitive potential from the student side. So there happens deep level of learning. So that is also a merit of reflective level of teaching. So among these options, the not merit of reflective level of teaching is it is suitable for primary school student. Okay. Which level of teaching is suitable for primary school students? What level of teaching suitable for primary level of students? Of course, exactly, memory level of teaching. I hope you all understood. So moving to the next question. In which level of teaching, lower level learning outcomes get focused? In which level of teaching, lower level learning outcomes get focused? All these are the previous year questions. It's a very simple question. Yes. The correct answer is memory level. We know the memory level is a basic level of teaching. Memory level is the primary level of teaching in which there is no thinking required from the side of the student. So here the lower level learning outcomes get focused. Here we know the memory level of teaching, we know the understanding level of teaching, we know the reflective level of teaching. Okay, then what is autonomous development level? What is autonomous development level? Autonomous development level is actually not a level of teaching. It is more like a level of learning. It is more like a level of learning. Okay. Here, there is no scope for teacher intervention. There is no need for a teacher. There is no role for a teacher. it doesn't require a teacher even as a guide or even as a mentor. Okay, there is no teacher. There is no teacher will be there. There will be a teacher. There is no teacher will be there. Okay. Here, the students take charge of their education and develop into self-reliant and self-directed study. Okay. Here, the student make self-studies, self-notes for the examination purpose. It is a student-centered level of learning, autonomous development level. Okay. There is no role for teacher. The teacher is absent. The teacher will be absent in the autonomous development level. Clear? So that's all about levels of teaching. That's all about the development. That's all about the memory level, understanding level, and reflective level of teaching. Is there any doubt? Do you have any doubt? If you have any doubt, let me know in the chat box. I hope you all understood the concept of teaching, meaning of teaching, definition of teaching. What are the objectives? What are the nature and characteristics of teaching? What are the levels of teaching? Okay. So these are the topics for today. So let's end the session. Do you have any doubt? I hope you all understood the session. Okay. So thank you so much. Let's end the session. Okay.